Welcome to Bed Crime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T, and today I'm going to talk about the Sarah Boone trial, or should I say the Sarah Boone shit show. I'm also going to be sharing some info from the Delphi trial of Richard Allen, so grab a drink, find a soft seat, and let's dig in. The Sarah Boone trial was again daunting today for all parties, the state, the defense, and the judge. Today is the fourth day, and they were still arguing about the evidence, what's relevant, what's not relevant, what the state has received from the defense, yada, yada, yada. The big thing that was accomplished today is that a jury has been seated, meaning selected. It will consist of 6 jurors and 8 alternates, which is very odd, having more alternates than jurors. And that jury of 6 will hear opening statements tomorrow morning, Friday, October 18th. By bringing in her 9th lawyer so late in the process, and changing her defense strategy, Sarah Boone has created not just a headache for everyone, but I'd say a thunderclap headache, the worst type of headache. Her defense team dumped loads of documents and photos on the prosecutor last night in the form of a thumb drive. One delivery included a ton of JPEGs or images. Per the prosecutor, the records arrived in a very messy manner. The photos were upside down, sideways, and many were irrelevant to Boone's case. The medical records in particular are full of irrelevant information that, according to the state, will not be coming into the trial, which is forcing the prosecutor to sift through all this crap at night during his personal time. And he is not too happy about it. Even Judge Michael Kranick, who comes across as a very savvy judge, sounds at times as if he's at his wit's end. And that's with the defense, not with the prosecution. My biggest problem right now is that Boone's attorney, James Owens, isn't speaking loudly enough and or isn't close enough to the microphone. And it's really hard to hear him. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm missing the judge in the Karen Reed case, if you know what I mean. She was constantly telling everybody to speak up, lean into the microphone. Now, Owens is coming across to me as being somewhat ill-prepared, likely due to the lack of time. He came onto the case so late, and he's definitely dealing with an entitled client who created this whole cluster F by sending her previous 8 lawyers a pack-in. But note that Owens chose to take on this case, and he knew when the trial was going to begin. He knew exactly how much time he had to prepare. And according to Emily Baker, Owens didn't have to take the case, so he signed up for this misery. Just FYI, Owens' legal background, according to his website, includes 3 years as a prosecutor in Pensacola, Florida, 3 years as an elected public defender, and 20-plus years as a criminal defense attorney in private practice. He's handled more than 100 jury trials, so you'd think he'd be well-versed for this type of trial. But for some reason, he doesn't seem to speak the same language as the state and the judge. For example, Owens was trying to enter oral testimony into evidence when they were discussing tangible, physical exhibits, such as photos. The judge had to explain this to Owens. As for Sarah today, she looked nervous at times to me. She seems to be very aware of the camera that is on her. She's smiling at times. She's shuffling papers again. She's making sort of weird movements with her mouth, and the camera is like right there up in her face. No wonder she wanted to have her own glam squad. She's turning around to talk to people. And by the way, it's definitely looking like she's going to have to take the stand in her own defense. And that's because she has to if she wants to use the blank, spouse defense/self-defense strategy. The word that belongs in the blank there begins with a B and rhymes with the word flattered. Flattered spouse defense. Boone has to testify about her fear on the Sunday when Torres died before this flattered spouse defense can be mentioned in the trial by the defense's expert witnesses. Sarah's the only person who can speak to how she felt on that Sunday. Thus, Boone has to testify to establish a foundation for this before her lawyers and her expert witnesses can testify at trial. Sarah Boone has to state what the victim, Jorge Torres, did on that Sunday he died to make her afraid of him, meaning what overt action Torres made that terrified her so much that she was afraid to unzip the suitcase and let him out. Note that the judge has already ruled that the defense can talk about the blank spouse syndrome self-defense strategy during voir dire, which means when the jurors are being selected, and they have already been selected. And the defense can also talk about it during their opening statement. What they can't do is talk about it until Sarah Boone gets up on that stand and testifies to it. After she testifies, then her expert witnesses can talk about this. Today, prosecutors kept trying to convince the judge that this case doesn't match the requirements for such a defense. They keep saying that the history of DV between Boone and Torres is irrelevant because Boone was in no immediate danger on the day Torres died. And they cite Boone's statements to police in which she said she and Torres were having a good day when Torres found his way into a zipped suitcase during what I can only call a bizarre game of hide and seek, if that's really what happened. The prosecutor keeps arguing that Boone should be banned from using this because there's no evidence of an overt act by Torres. In Florida, there has to be an overt act committed by the spouse or partner who died in order for the accused to use this defense strategy. And again, the prosecutor pointed out that back when Boone was giving her final statement about the events on the day Torres died, she never mentioned an overt act by Torres. On the contrary, she emphasized what a great day they were having, and the two videos Boone took of Torres crying out to be let out of the suitcase because he could not breathe show Boone laughing at him, ignoring his distress, and making snarky comments. I think she should use the intoxicated defense. I was too intoxicated to understand what he was saying. I couldn't understand a word of it, and there was no way I could walk over to that suitcase and navigate opening the zip in my condition. The prosecutor said that the two videos show Boone's conscious disregard for Torres's life and well-being. And I have to agree. Torres was crammed in the suitcase in such a position that he could not fully breathe. And there's evidence that he was in that suitcase for more than 11 hours. And we learned from her defense attorney that she used a bat on Torres's hand or fingers when they came out of the suitcase, and the defense cited a wound on Torres's hand. Personally, I don't think the jury is going to have much sympathy for Sarah Boone after they watch those videos and hear about this bat. If a woman who suffered DV at the hands of a man managed to get onto the jury, I could see that person maybe coming into the case biased and thus feeling more sympathetic to Boone, but that would be it. What's problematic to me is that Boone herself has a history of DV against Torres, just like he has a history of DV against her. Both of them have previous arrests in Orange County, Florida, for DV against one another. In July of 2018, Boone was charged with blank by putting her hands around Torres's neck, if you know what I mean. The word that belongs there starts with a B and rhymes with flattery. Boone told investigators that she was dragged upstairs by Torres, and kicked in the right eye after talking to a guy at a bar. But the deputies at the time couldn't tell who the primary aggressor was. As for Torres, he was charged with flattery 3 times in 2019. His most recent arrest was in September of that same year. Boone accused him of using his fist to cause injury to her ear. This is when there was a temporary injunction for protection put into place. Now, neighbors told Fox News 35 in 2020 that they'd seen deputies stopping by Boone's Winter Park home, and they heard the couple arguing. They described Boone as being very nice, comforting, very talkative, but they said she also had her moments of yelling and screaming. But none of this previous stuff matters because of the need to have an overt act by Torres on the day he died that made Sarah fear for her life. The state says so far there's no evidence of such an act. The defense says there is an overt act, and again, that's when Torres stuck 2 fingers or his hand out of the suitcase. Here was another big thing that happened today. The judge ruled that Sarah cannot have all the snacks she requested. So no Pop-Tarts, no bag of candy, no 2 boxes of juice, no 5 peppermints. The judge said she will receive whatever snacks everyone else receives. Sarah sounds like such a child. This lady who claims she was playing hide and seek with her boyfriend on the Sunday he died. And the foods that she requested are things that a child would want. I mean, again, I get the bag of candy, but the Pop-Tart? The judge also ruled that the defense must tonight organize all those JPEGs and other materials that they sent to the state. So James Owens and his team have their work cut out for them tonight. No happy hour. Okay, so that was the Sarah Boone trial. Now we're going to move on to the Delphi case. This is the trial of Richard Allen, who is accused of harming teenagers Abigail Williams and Liberty Germanbach on February 13th of 2017 after they were dropped off for a hike near the Monon High Bridge in Delphi, Indiana. This trial was still dealing with motions today. One motion from the defense was to have the jurors taken to the crime scene at the trail system in Delphi so that they could look at the layout of the Freedom Bridge, the Monon High Bridge, and the former CPS building nearby. All of those sites are believed to factor into the crime. The defense withdrew its request for this. Originally, the defense felt the trip would give the jury a better understanding of the crime scene and how it relates to the evidence, but the prosecution objected to this trip, saying that such a trip would require a substantial amount of time and resources, and they feel they can tell the story through photos. The other motion discussed was the state's desire to prohibit the 2 composite sketches of Bridge Guy from being used at trial. Indiana State Police released the sketches 2 years apart, with the first one being revealed to the public in July of 2017 and the second one being released in April of 2019. They were based on the recollections of various witnesses. The first one featured a man in a hat and a hooded sweatshirt, while the second showed a much younger person. Prosecutor Nick McLeland filed a motion seeking to have the sketches excluded from the trial, arguing that they were not used to identify Richard Allen and had little bearing on the case against him. I think the prosecutors are fearful that those sketches will work against their case because you could argue that Richard Allen doesn't really resemble either sketch. Judge Frances Gull told the attorneys she needs time to decide on this, so that decision remains to be seen. Gull did decide today to allow guards and inmates to testify about Richard Allen's behavior and comments that he made while he was incarcerated, and another motion regarding an expert the defense planned to call to discredit ballistics analysis key to the prosecution's case. Gull said she's going to review that and decide. So that's it for the Delphi case today. Let me know in the comments if you like this coverage, and if so, I will try my best to keep up with the two trials. Tomorrow morning, I have to take my dad for another medical appointment. He has so many medical appointments, but after that, I will get to work. Until the next time on Bed Crime Stories. Hey, do me a favor, smash that like button.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
You.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
Sarah. I can't breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Real or ransom. Might want to get video for it extra. Because I got this.
Sarah.
Real or ransom.
Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you ching on me.
Sarah. Please, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut up.
Sarah.
Shh.
Sarah.